welcome to today's reading. I'm going to admit this one came through in a rather abstract sort of way, but on writing it all down, I've been able to piece together what it is that the message is coming through. And just so you know, if you're new to my channel, the way that I receive these messages is through a variety of words that come through, phrases, and sometimes images as well. So when they come through, when I'm in that sort of liminal state, I write them down, because as soon as they've come, they've gone again, and I can never remember what they are afterwards. So it's really important for me to write them down. So I'm going to go through them in the order that they appeared to me. And I have a feeling that this is going to really resonate with anybody who's having relationship difficulties at the moment. I don't normally get such a strong feeling for it being about something, but in this particular case it does feel like it's relationship wise. Okay, so the very first thing that came through to me this particular time was just the word lexicon, and I was like, oh, that's all about language and the use of words. And as I was thinking that, it became really clear to me that this is all about the language that you're using to yourself, and that quite often you're sort of falling into a pattern of being quite hard on yourself, and negative self-talk, sort of negative self-belief that's coming through, and the advice that comes through alongside that is that you wouldn't talk to a friend this way, so why do you do it to yourself? So really start to notice when it is that you're doing that, and just sort of, even if all you're doing is noticing, it will then pinch that thought at the point that it's at, and you'll not go down into that negative thought spiral. And I've got a video on a really good technique of how to sort of curb negative thought spirals. I'll put a link to that in the description. So alongside that word of lexicon, as soon as I'd got that meaning through about language, needing to be sort of transferred from being negative to positive, I got a really clear image in my head, and it was a strange one. It was an image of really choppy waters, like waves crashing against some kind of barrier. And in my head, it was a wooden barrier that was protecting a more calm space, so almost like a harbour, but it's got this wooden barrier protecting it from these waves that are crashing. And the feeling I get is that at the moment you are in this choppy wave section, but it's not necessarily in your external world, it's in here. So lots of thoughts, lots of feelings, lots of emotions all going around, and it's almost like you don't know what's real and what's not, and what's your own feelings and what's the influence of someone else's. I'm almost getting a feeling that there might be some gaslighting going on, or has been, and it's made you sort of question whether it's your own truth. And that's the next thing that happened then, is I got a really sort of itchy throat, and to me that is all about the throat chakra. So it feels like for whatever reason you're not able to speak your truth at the moment, and that is why all of this is going on, and all of this sort of messiness and not really knowing how you feel about things, because you're not being totally honest with yourself. Now, it might be that you are needing to communicate a truth to somebody else, and I'm going to ask, please use your discernment in this one. If you are in an unsafe space to be able to do that, then don't do it. So if you feel comfortable and safe expressing your truth, expressing what it is you need, what it is that you want, what your desires are, what's not right for you, what's not working for you, what you need help with, then go ahead and say it, because you'll see that it's quite often the other person doesn't always know what it is that you want. They're not mind readers. For those people who don't feel like it's safe to be able to express that, to be able to communicate in an honest way and really speak your truth, maybe just start to speak your truth with yourself. And I'm getting that for some of you, that's actually a really difficult thing, because of all of this noise that you've got going on. So if it's not safe for you to be able to communicate and speak your truth, do it just to yourself. Do it perhaps in writing, journal on it in a safe place, and really start to ask yourself those questions. What is it that I want? What do I need? What feels right now and what doesn't feel right? And as you're asking these questions, really drop into your gut to get the response. And I've got a video on this as well. I think it was in the very first reading that I did. I'll put a link to that one as well. Dropping into your gut to get the response. And the more you do that, the more you're able to listen to it and know what it is that it's telling you. I'm going to link into something Glennon Doyle said here. If anyone's sort of familiar with the work of Glennon Doyle, she's a brilliant writer, and has been on a really amazing path of self-discovery. In her book Untamed, it's brilliant, there is a little part where she talks about going down into her knowing, is what she calls it. So it's your intuition, it's your gut feeling, it's your inner knowing, your inner voice. And the way that she opened that up was to sit in a closet with no external distractions, nothing else being able to influence what was coming in, just sitting in that closet in absolute stillness, in absolute quiet. And it's only then that she was able to drop into that knowing. But the more she practiced doing it, the more she was able to do it, just out and about, in and amongst, loads of noise going on around her, she could drop into that knowing. So that is what the message is coming through. That's the advice that's coming through for you to be able to start to lean into that, know what is right for you, start communicating your own truth, even if it's only to yourself. Okay. Now, on doing that, what happens then is this barrier that's stopping these waves from getting into this calm space. I'm seeing it as a harbour. It opens slightly, but only one wave is allowed to come through at a time. So there's still all of this going on, but as each wave comes through, it starts to get calmer. And it's kind of like balancing out. In fact, now that I'm thinking about it, it's a bit like a lock gate at a canal. So, when you get in the changing heights with canal boats going through a lock, it's sort of that feeling. It's a balancing, but there is only one thing allowed through at a time. And what this is meaning, the way that I'm interpreting it, is that as emotions come up, as feelings come up, you're sort of being asked to deal with them, recognize them and deal with that particular thing, just that one thing, focus just on that one thing, recognize it, have an awareness of what it is, and then let it go. Let it move out into these calmer waters. And what kind of happens is it sort of ripples through, but then finds stillness again. And the more that you do this, the calmer this water in this choppy section is getting, because it's allowing that energy to move slowly through. So again, I think a really good way of doing this is journaling. So start to ask yourself those questions in writing. You'll find that the answers sort of flow out naturally. You ask yourself a question, you let it flow. It's like, what am I feeling right now? What is this feeling that I'm experiencing? Write down, what can I do to get rid of it? Not get rid of it, that's the wrong thing. Transmute it, turn it into a learning journey. Use it as something to learn from for future experiences where you might come across this thing. Okay, now on that, what has happened then is it's really strange. I have this synchronistic thing that happens to me every now and again, and it involves deer, and it's so lovely. It's always lovely to see deer out in the wild, but quite often when I'm out walking, I've got a beautiful little Springer Spaniel. When I'm out walking her, I can be so lost in my head, so lost in worry and anxieties and thoughts that are going round about certain things, even if it's just like my to-do list for the day. And I'm so caught up in it that I'm not present. I'm not aware of the surroundings that I'm in, which are absolutely gorgeous. Where I live, it's really beautiful. It's a really beautiful part of Yorkshire in Northern England. And it's really weird that every time I feel like I'm lost in a particular type of thought, and it's usually to do, worry about finances, worry about health, worry about my children, that sort of thing, a deer will appear. And it's just that, like, oh yeah, it's always a reminder for me to come back to the present. And it'll happen when I'm out and about driving as well. I'll be lost in thought while I'm driving, I shouldn't do that, should you? But how often is it that you set off on a journey and you get there and realise that you can't remember any of the journey? But anyway, quite often, you know, I'll glance to the side of the road and there'll be a deer in a field at the side of the road. You know, and again, it just brings me back to the present. So I think that the fact that I've seen that this morning as I've been preparing to do this video, it's a message to give to you guys as well, is that to pull yourself back into that present moment. And it's when you're in that present moment and not lost in all of this choppy water that's going on inside that you find clarity. Okay, now the sort of try and find my words, sorry, I lose my words sometimes. The spirit meaning of seeing a deer is all about gentleness, innocence, and a connection to the natural world. So it's really nice is that I think the gentleness ties into this calmer water that's available to you if you start quieting your mind, speaking your truth, getting clear on what it is that you want. There's a gentleness to it. And the more you do it, the more you come into alignment with what's right for you and what's not. Okay. Innocence, that's pulling back to that childlike state, you know, being totally present in your surroundings, questioning things, like seeing the awe and the beauty in what's around you. So that lovely innocence that comes through. And then the connection to the natural world led me on then to the next message that's coming through. And that is a message that another really good way to get totally back in tune with that inner knowing, that intuition, is to ground yourself. Now, a really easy way to do that is to be out in nature. It's a lot easier to distance yourself from the noise of the external. You know, don't take your phone with you, or put it, you know, turn it off, put it on silent, whatever, and just really sink into your surroundings. So quiet the noise. And I think this message is coming through not just for when you're doing that, you know, like when you've taken that actual time out to go and do something like that. You know, quieten the noise in general. So maybe just take a bit of a social media detox, perhaps. You know, turn off from, I get the impression that you're listening to a lot of podcasts and things like that. So maybe tune out from those just for, you know, for a few moments a day at least. If you could set yourself a day aside, that would be amazing, you know, because the less we've got coming in from the external, the more we're able to access that internal, what's coming from inside of us, that truth that's in here. Okay, and it comes back to the Glennon Doyle thing as well. If you need to, shut yourself in a wardrobe. I love that. Okay, so quite a profound message coming through today. I hope it's resonated with you. If so, please feel free to comment, support each other in the comments as well. And as always, like and subscribe. All right, thanks very much. I'll see you next time. Bye.